Milwaukee 7 perspective, and then we can talk a little bit more locally. But M7 sells regional assets in a holistic way, and that as a project develops, as we dial in on what that company's specific particular needs are, then we start to look at the very specific needs around transportation or around the amenities that they're looking for locally. But we always start with a wide funnel. We sell the entire region and its assets collectively. And from what we hear, we do a good job. I've heard a lot of conversation this morning about the airport, the proximity to Chicago, and O'Hare Airport. The Hiawatha can't be underestimated how important that is, especially since a lot of our business of late has been relocating companies from Illinois, Northern Illinois in particular, and they'd like to offer their workforce the option to stay in Illinois, and give us a chance to sell the benefits of moving to Wisconsin, which we are usually successful in doing. But for that midterm time, the Hiawatha is a huge asset for selling business locations from Northern Illinois. But as you can imagine, site factors are usually reign supreme in this equation of corporate attraction, and it isn't until we get into the details of the deal that we start to talk about amenities and local conveniences and things like BRT and really hyper-local transportation solutions.
Well, I think you starting with the company perspective there, and I know the question leads us there, but it's such a great point about what are the companies looking for, because companies have so many different audiences, right? They've got their employees, they've got where do they need to get their product to or their service, where do their customers want them to be located? When I think of something like the recent attraction of Milwaukee Tool putting their new office facility down in downtown Milwaukee, because so many of the employees that they are looking to attract want to be in that urban environment, want other amenities around them, as you mentioned. If you're not talking about an office, if you're talking about more of an industrial company or someone who's looking for, where can they get their goods onto a highway quickly or into the port quickly, there are all these different things that companies have to consider, and we want to make sure that we're providing an environment that answers all of those questions, that allows them to get their product where they need it to be. It allows them to be where their employees want to be, and who's buying from them, how are they going to get there? So we have to think holistically in all those different veins.
Ditto? No, I'm kidding. No, in regards to a perspective from Kohl's, I would say it's twofold, right? It's where are the employees and where are the customers. So we really, with Kohl's, this model, it's off-mall, right? You're not gonna find us really in a lot of mall locations, but it's off-mall. And so we're really trying to find ways to connect into the community, really connect with more of those diverse customers with intention, right? So we know who our customers have been, but knowing who our customers will be and can be, by intention positioning different stores for those locations and considering not those that have the credit score, but with the product and the merchandise that we are trying to connect with an always-on approach beyond just the celebratory moments. How are we really connecting with those diverse populations more intentionally and putting the stores in those locations so we can start building, more of that market base and more of the representation?
All right. Thank you for those insights. Sounds like Hiawatha is important to the workforce, as well as obviously our local transit and our local roads to get both employees and customers. Question number 2 is, what are our regional strengths when it comes to transportation as a tool to attract new companies or retain existing companies in our region, and what are our weaknesses?
I'll jump in. I mean, I think you mentioned some of them right off the bat. The Hiawatha service, our ability to get to and fro Chicago quickly. I think the port is really an underrated asset in terms of transportation. An award-winning port, and the ability to get product in and out of there internationally is a pretty amazing asset. Our highways, we have think it was mentioned in a previous panel that we have spent a lot on transportation in this region, and our highways are absolutely an asset. There is capacity there. We know at the moment there's some contention about what to do east-west along 94, but it's a recognition that is an incredibly valuable asset, and we have to consider, what is the best way to utilize that for quality of life, to get people and products and services where they need to go. But we've done some great things there. I think the streetcar, again, a contentious element, but an underrated asset. When people visit this community from elsewhere, we have to think about that perspective, because we're looking to grow. We want to attract people to this region, and so we shouldn't just think about the perspectives of those of us who are already here, but let's listen to the people who come visit, who are thinking about places where they want to be. And I think sometimes an underrated perspective when thinking about what should be in a place is that people don't necessarily come and see the absence of things, but then when they go to other communities and they see those things there, they get excited about it and they can envision themselves there, and it becomes more of a selling point. So people may not come to our region and think, oh, they don't have this, and this. I'm not sure I want to be here, but when they go somewhere else, when they go to a Kansas City or they go to a Boston and they see these various elements of how they can get where they want to be, they can think about, I could live here and get here without much of a problem. Those kinds of things really do make a difference.
I'd agree, and I'd add the Milwaukee to Madison corridor is a really key asset that we need to leverage when it comes to transportation. If Hiawatha is as successful as it is, and it's a draw for economic development, we need to build the same opportunities out Milwaukee to Madison and leverage some of that economic growth that's happening in Madison, in the tech sector in particular. I'd add one comment about, we have a lot of assets. We have hubs of work, live, play. There are I can't think of the name, but the corners of Brookfield and then the Oak Creek. What's that area called there?
Drexel.
Drexel Square with healthcare, with retail, hospitality, with housing, and those are hubs that are very attractive to incoming young professionals, new residents, new graduates to the area. So, but what we lack is a connectivity of those assets. If you think about transportation, it is not just a way to get people to and from their jobs. We're talking about healthcare, we're talking about errands, just simple daily activities, and recreation, and all of the other uses for transportation, and we need to think more holistically about that. I'd say another weakness is that we've talked about it much today, the mismatch, the spatial mismatch between the more entry-level roles and where the jobs are. And we're talking about, a previous speaker mentioned or used the phrase family supporting jobs. And, I think we have an issue where the pandemic caused a lot of us to redo the math in our head as, employees as a consumer of a workplace and of an environment that gets you there. We've done the math in our heads, and it doesn't add up necessarily to the business case for, taking a bus out to Waukesha for a role that pays less than $15 an hour. If you do the math and you consider childcare and you consider the things that you're going to have to offload to someone else, it doesn't necessarily add up. So I think we need to think more holistically about that employee as a consumer of, there are options, and they're doing that math in their head, and we should account for that as we envision transit solutions.
Can I just make a quick point adding on to that? I know we're talking transportation, but I'd be remiss since so much of my world right now is thinking about affordable housing. And we are working on affordable housing in Milwaukee. Got a great plan we're working on with the Community Development Alliance. But we also recognize that has to be a regional solution as well. I think we all understand here that transportation must be a regional solution. So does affordable housing. If there's not a reasonable financial and quality of life case for taking a bus from Milwaukee all the way out to Waukesha, then we have to think about making sure that all of our communities are inclusive communities and have affordable housing for people there as well, so that people can be near where the jobs are and feel welcomed in those environments.
Yeah, not too much more to add, Becca. You covered all the key angles. But really, brass tacks, it comes to, do the people have access to get to the employment? And is it really in their benefit for the full, well-rounded, comprehensiveness that they have to consider as part of their life? If we think about the locations of our stores, does the bus line go all the way out to our corporate office? Does it really... Is it like a mile away from where our corporate office is, and then they have to track that way if they don't have their own transportation? So it makes it difficult if we want to bring in the talent that doesn't necessarily always want to work at home, but wants to come to corporate office. If we're looking for jobs in finance and engineering and supply chain, where we're trying to bring the diverse talent in, but they're saying, to your previous point, if I don't have a means to get out there, if they're part of the younger generation that wants to use multimodal transportation and we don't have it, that makes our job that much harder to recruit them, to have them stay, right? If we want to prevent that think bubble from expanding and have the talent leave our area, we need to find ways to keep the talent here, and or if when they do come here, they want to stay. So it's all of those different components that we need to consider. And going to the Common Council, I know they did that in Texas when they were putting in a new facility. They went to look and petition to have the bus lines extended so that they could have their employees really come in and really participate in the workforce. Otherwise, it would have been a moot point, because putting the location where they put it, the workforce couldn't get there, right? So they really needed to have that conversation and break some ground and move forward on connecting the people to the opportunity to the location.
Yeah, those are all great points. I think the takeaway that I got from your discussion is just the importance of partnerships. We can work with MCTS, or MCTS can take the initiative to do a new bus rapid transit route, but it really has to be supported by the local communities where the route is, and appropriate, land use and development policies, affordable housing policies. So, we're talking about transportation, but there really needs to be a very comprehensive look when we talk about making systemic change in our region. And so I think partnerships and, community development is so important in the conversation. All right. Moving on to question number 3. And we have about 15 minutes left.
We're doing well, right? Timing?
I guess we're doing all right. Yeah, I guess we're right on time. Okay, how does our region's menu of options for getting around, such as roads, bus, streetcar, bike share, play a role in real estate development? What can we do to encourage more development that drives growth in our region?
So I feel like this question is
Might
very
be suited for you.
tailored to me.
Yeah.
I was just thinking I wanted to not jump in before Sam this time, and yet this question.
Take all my thunder.
How do they play a role towards real estate development? They're certainly crucial. The thing I was thinking about just before you asked the question is how exciting it is to see so many current, former, and future mayors. President Johnson in here a moment ago, and that's just about logistics. That's not an endorsement. They understand quite well how important it is to lay the groundwork to make an environment for where people want to be, where people want to locate their businesses. We are seeing it in Milwaukee with some of the things we've done along the Milwaukee River, what we've done in the Menominee Valley, the Riverwalk, the streetcar as well. We're hearing it directly from developers that knowing that you've got fixed public investment in a particular location really does drive development. It makes that pro forma really makes sense, that you know there are going to be people coming along a route or stopping in a particular environment. And so I think when we think about it, public sector investment absolutely lays the groundwork for that private sector investment. You want to do the things that are necessary to spur growth, and then not get in the way of the business community once they come in and create additional solutions. I think it's a key. It's a keystone for future real estate development.
Yes, Susan or Samantha, do you have anything to add to that?
That's all Lafayette.
All right, well, I guess we'll move on to the next question. Competition for talent is fierce, and the workforce shortage is real. What specific steps would you suggest to employers who are under a talent crunch and want to reach a wider labor pool?
Okay, yeah, I feel like this one's mine now. I got the eyes. Yes.
Yes.
It really is a mindset shift, I would say, on behalf of the hiring managers as well as the culture of the organization, right? So looking at your job requisitions, is it inclusive of what's essential versus what's preferred? Is it written in an experiential way where someone is interested beyond just bullets of what their day may comprise of, but what's the experience? What can you be part of, right? How do you change the culture to say we are looking for individuals that will add to our culture, that will challenge the status quo, that will push back on the way things have been, so that people want to feel that their true self, their perspectives, their diverse experience can be considered and will be added and be valued as we're moving forward in this new market, right? Also, our strategy of broad but targeted in how you're seeking talent. So specifically looking at HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, looking at Hispanic serving institutions or predominantly white institutions. How are you building relationships to saying, hey, we're a compelling employer for X, Y, and Z reason. Here's how we are embracing D&I. Here's how we are embracing finance or technology, right? So it's a lot of those different components, as well as having diverse panels of interviewers, not necessarily just by ethnicity, but by experience and beyond function. So it really shows broad-based how we are embracing inclusion beyond just managing diversity through representation. So those are just a few of the key components that we would consider, as well as how are we meeting our candidates where they are? What are they looking for as it relates to benefits? Are our benefits inclusive? Are they inclusive of our LGBTQ associates, is the orientation considering their equitable starting point? Is the orientation a one-size-fits-all, right? You have to consider that as you have new talent coming in, because they have the pick of the litter, as we're seeing right now. So why do they feel compelled to consider your company over another? It's because of the culture, how you are being honest, how you are being eyes wide open, how you are considering their experience, and how we are really thinking about taking their experience and leveraging it going forward versus what we have just done, but meeting in the middle so that everyone feels they are represented and involved and accountable to how the culture is going to evolve even forward.
I'd add that it's the best offense is a good defense, and it's never been more important to retain the workforce that you already have. Just like with sales and marketing, it costs a heck of a lot more to gain a new customer or an employee than it does to retain an existing one. And right now, there are 0.83 job seekers available for every job opening in Wisconsin. That's the lowest that metric has ever been since they started tracking it in like 2000. Just for reference, at the height of the Great Recession in 2009, 2010, that number was 6.67. So right now, people can afford to be choosy. Employees are in the driver's seat, and I would encourage all employers to take a good look at how to maintain and retain the employees that you have. And the pandemic really caused us to reevaluate all of our situations and the balance that we have in our lives. Flexibility is the number one, attribute that a new talent, existing talent, your incumbent workforce, your future workforce are looking for. We saw over 2 million more people than expected retire during the last year of the pandemic, for whatever reason. So there's really the demographic slow down. There really is no one coming to save us. We have to save ourselves and look at ways to add flexibility, benefits, and perks that meet people where they are, that really recognize who your workforce is. You know, when I came on board where I work now, we were talking about there's a dry cleaning benefit, and, you know, some of us get company cars, and I thought, well, where I need help is with, you know, getting dinner on the table at a reasonable hour by the time I get home. So then, you know, there started to be talk about farmers markets and perks involved in family meals being accessible to bring home. And Kohl's is a great example with the cafeteria. And I know you have farmers markets come to the office every so often. So meeting people where they are and really thinking about what those perks and benefits are. Do they still meet your average employee, or are they geared to an employee of the past, or an aspirational, fictional employee that will never exist? So meet people where they are.
Well, I think those are both, you know, really incredible in-depth answers. I don't have much to add to that. The only thing I would add, and I'm sure Sam can attest to this with her work at Kohl's, is that the only way these kinds of discussions are truly impactful is that if you weave them through everything that the company or the region does. In your D&I work at Kohl's, if that's just about the workforce, or if that's just about do people feel welcome when they come into the stores, if you're not thinking about this holistically and thinking about things in silos, you're not going to have the real kind of impact that you can. And I think that that's the case from a transportation and a regional transportation perspective as well. When you're thinking about attracting and keeping people, you do have to think about that in every vein. What are you missing that may be keeping people from staying or coming?
Yeah, I'll just add to that as well. You're never always going to be 100% ready, right? If I waited, let's say, for Kohl's to be #1 on a certain like D&I award before that, you know, and it took us 10 years, and you never knew us journeying for the 10 years, but when we hit #1, then we declare it. We lost 10 years of building trust, of building loyalty, of building accountability, and people saying, oh, look what Kohl's is doing, right? It's about amplifying and coming to the table and being honest about opportunity, being honest of where you're achieving, and saying, what are we going to do about it, right? To Lafayette's point, it's about embedding and operationalizing D&I or transportation throughout the organization, being honest about where you are, being honest about what you can do differently, and doing some of that hard work to have those conversations, because we can do hard things. It's just a matter of choosing to do them with intentionality and being deliberate. And about how do we convene, how do we remove the ego, and how do we understand that we're all working towards essentially a common goal to improve the retention of our region, to improve the sustainability and the thriving of our region, to bring people here so that we can build business, we can build connection, we can build family, and make it a place that people want to come and stay. So D&I is just one component of that, right? It's beyond just diversity management of do we have the numbers of the people of the ethnicity, but how do we create that culture where they feel they want to stay and feel included, and that their voice is heard, seen, and considered.
Right. Yeah, it seems that all employers are trying to get their arms around the worker shortage, whether it's, you know, entry level or, you know, even a highly educated workforce like my firm. We're always trying to find talent, and thank you for some of those pointers that Kohl's has, because those are very relevant to my daily life as well. But, you know, hopefully this is also an opportunity for us to move forward, and, you know, and it really sounds like it's a great time to bring some of these workforce challenges with transportation and other workforce issues that we have in our region forward, because all of a sudden our workforce is very important, and I don't think our workforce has ever had this kind of spotlight on it before, and I think it presents a lot of opportunity for us to find solutions and move forward. All right, question number 5. When we're thinking about diverse and inclusive workplaces in our region, what should we be thinking about in terms of employee transportation? So I know you talked a little bit about some of the, you know, from rewriting your job descriptions and inclusivity and diversity committees within the firm, but specifically related to transportation, what should we be thinking about from a diversity and an inclusive workforce?
I think a lot of it's already been said today. Go to where the people are and bring them where they need to be. that's I would say brass tacks, kind of the idea of why we're all here. Right now, we don't have that option. We don't have that connection throughout the region. And really going into those zip codes where there isn't the option or the opportunity right now heavily throughout the course of the day. If it takes an hour for someone to get into work, again, then they have to think about childcare. How am I getting them to school and all of the compounds and components they have to consider within that. How do we get them from point A to point B as most efficiently as possible? Or do we offer flexibility, throughout the course of the week in regards to like ride share? How do we provide that as an employer, or how do we subsidize that cost? So again, it's how do we get to where the people are and get them to where they need to be as it relates to education, healthcare, schools, all of that.
I'd add that a company doesn't have to do this alone. This isn't your job alone, or there are a lot of community-based organizations and supports available for you to partner with to get to that place where Samantha's recommending we go. And I think Joseph Project is in the room. That's an example I can think of. I know the Milwaukee Urban League has some training programs that have transportation dollars attached and can provide vans or rideshare opportunities for individuals. And many of the local business improvement districts or local economic development corps have job training programs with transportation dollars attached. So seeking some of those out, I'm sure that the RTLC has some connectivity to those organizations and can provide referrals and partnership ideas for you there. But I also would like to suggest that that there be some new thinking around shifts and how we structure work to be more inclusive as well. Everyone during the pandemic had an opportunity again to revision or to refit together the jigsaw pieces of their life. And I think gone are the days where people are willing to carve out 10 to 12 hours to get ready for work, pack your lunch, get the kids off to school, get on a bus, go to work for 8 hours, and then do that all on the way home and get dinner prepared and people ready for the next day. So revisioning how we look at shifts, and I think that the gig economy is coming for all industries, even those that thought they were previously not a fit for it or immune to it. We're going to see that happen in even entry-level roles, and I'm seeing it happen in retail hospitality. I'm seeing it happen in manufacturing. Yes, we're talking about just in time. On an app, do you want to work on Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and which one of the four? And the employer knows just in time who's coming that day, but then they can also arrange for transportation for who's coming that day. So just-in-time transportation has to meet up with just-in-time employment. And that's all the future, and it will apply to roles across the board that previously were considered inoculated against the need to be flexible in shifts and in the way that we treat the gig economy.
Yeah, again, two incredible answers covering a lot of ground. I think the one thing I would add is when we're thinking about transportation, it's just important for employers to make sure that that's part of their calculus when they're looking at attracting workers, and think about all the different transportation issues that an employee or a group of employees may have. It is not just getting themselves to work. It's getting their child off to where they might need to be. It's having the opportunity. One of the things we all probably enjoyed about working from home is being able to get the other things done during the day. That how do I get to this place that's only open from 8 to 5 when I got to be at work from 8 to 5? Figuring out how to get those things done and helping employees with all those other different elements. And just to circle back and really underscore something that Sam was saying about inclusivity and diversity, I think you have to take it all the way through. You can't just be accessible to diverse populations. You can't just be be inclusive of diverse populations, but you have to be welcoming of them and welcoming of them, in all environments, both in the workplace and figuring out what are their specific challenges, and then, of course, not treating any one group as a monolith, but treating each individual as though they are the individual that they are. So providing opportunities for people to have the transportation that they need without just saying, well, we've got a bus line for all of our Latino workers from the south side of Milwaukee. Things of that nature. You can't just make people feel like they fit a category or they're in some sort of box. Really be expansive and inclusive in a way that continues to make people feel like valued individuals.
Putting the human back in human capital, right? Yeah.
All right, we are right at time. Thank you, panelists, for all your great insights on this topic today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great moderating.